Hello everyone, let's begin a session on Chef. As you know, it's a configuration management tool. So let's go ahead and understand how it's different from the other configuration management tools like Ansible and Puppet, which you have already used. And you can see for yourself how different it is and whether it is convenient for you or not. Right? So let's begin discussing what the tool is. So first of all, before going into this diagram, let me list a few points about Chef. Now, number one is this tool is based on Ruby, the language, and all the Chef manifests are written in Ruby. So one thing is that you need to understand the basic syntax of Ruby in order to operate Chef. And apart from that, it follows a very easy syntactical programming, so it's not that difficult to write a Chef manifest. Now, as in Ansible, the manifests are called playbooks. In case of Puppet, the manifests are called the Puppet manifests. Here, we call the Chef manifests as recipes. So what is a recipe? It is a set of instructions that would do a certain task. Say you want to install a MySQL database server. So then what would you do is you would write a recipe to install the MySQL database, which would have the commands related to installing MySQL database. So that is how Chef works. You have to first write a recipe and then you need to execute that recipe in your destination node. Now let's look at the architecture, how Chef is designed to work for multi-node systems. Now, unlike Ansible, which works on a push-based system, like you have just one node, no clients at all, and you want to push a certain piece of manifest or a playbook in a certain server, then you just have to update the host file and push your code into that system, and that gets installed in the destination system. But Chef is a pull-based system. It's similar to Puppet, where you have a client agent installed in the destination systems where you want to deploy, and you have a server which contains the various cookbooks. So the clients themselves pull the cookbooks from the server and deploy it upon themselves. So that's how a client updates itself with the pull-based orchestration. So here in Chef, there is one thing which is additional to the server client architecture, that is the workstation. So what do we have? There are three things in total. We have a client system where we want to install the software or where we want to make the deployments happen. And then we have a Chef server which contains the cookbook. Now, apart from that, we also have a workstation. So this is where the developer or the DevOps person will work, and he uses certain tools in the workstation, such as a Chef IDE, like it's a development kit, the Chef DK. So the Chef DK is used in the workstation to create cookbooks and recipes, which are then also kept on a Git repo. And then from the workstation, it gets pushed to the server where it resides. The cookbook from the server is pulled by the client and is installed on the client system. So that is how the Chef architecture works. So in the workstation, you prepare the cookbook, then you store it in the Git repo, and at the same time, you also push it into the Chef server, and from the Chef server, the client agent pulls and deploys itself. So this is how Chef works. Now get some theory on what we can do with Chef and what are the various terms and jargons we use when we do things using Chef deployment tool. So first is, as I said, we have a system called workstation. This system where the recipes would be actually prepared. First, the definition says Chef comprises of a workstation which is configured to develop the recipes and cookbooks as we discussed, and it is also configured to run the knife and synchronizes with Chef record to keep it up to date. Now let me tell you what knife is. Here in the world of Chef, knife is a command which deploys certain things from the workstation to the Chef server. Say you're writing a cookbook or a recipe. Once the recipe is ready, you push it into the Chef server using the command called knife. So knife is a deployment command as well as it's a command which allows you to push various recipes uh, from a workstation to the server, interact with the server. So it's normally a handy tool to interact with the server workstation. Then moving on, what is a server in Chef? Chef server stores recipes of cookbooks and assigns them to the nodes depending on their requirements. Like storehouse of the cookbooks, the Chef clients who are authenticated or registered with the Chef server will be allowed to source those cookbooks and get them installed on website. That is what server is. Now the clients are also known as nodes, and this is where the provisioning will actually happen. So these are the definitions of the basic Chef components, and then uh, we will move on to understand how we can deploy Chef. Which will explain how Chef execution is done. Now, there are two different ways to do a Chef execution. What is the Chef execution? The way in which you install your recipes onto the client. These are the various types of ways by which you can do that. One is the good old way of Chef, where you have a Chef server which contains all the playbooks and these the recipes or the playbooks, and these recipes or the cookbooks would be deployed to the client system in a pool-based request. Okay, the clients contain an agent which registers itself with the Chef server, and it creates some requests, and those requests are then honored by the Chef server, which then using command line called knife then deploys everything in the client. So this is how it works. The request goes from the client, and then the code is pushed from the server towards the client. So this is one way of execution. But since Chef depends on Ruby and a number of components, the installation of this kind of architecture becomes difficult. Like say if you have n number of clients, say 20 or 30 clients, then in every client you have to configure the Chef client software, and then you have to register it with the Chef server. So that is where the things get difficult. Like you have to install a client in every node where you want to attach. So after the advent of Ansible, this feature of Chef is no longer a good thing. Like it's putting Chef behind, because the most of the users want Ansible, because you don't have to do anything and just install Ansible in one of the nodes and deploy it from there. So Chef has come up with a newer technology. So this way of deploying is still available, but you have a new way of deploying as well. That is called Chef Solo. So what is a Chef Solo? It's actually a command line library or command line tool which allows you to deploy Chef on any system without requiring a server. So Chef Solo is something which if you deploy on a server alongside the Chef DK or the development kit, then it allows you to deploy your playbooks on that system. So what you can do is, it's just a single line command. You can have your provisioning done in the server and install Chef Solo over it. Then you can source your cookbooks from any Git repository and then run the Chef Solo command line and deploy the cookbook on that system. So that's how deployments becomes easier, and all the complexities are removed. Okay. So let's then go ahead and try out this Chef Solo and do some hands-on. to understand how this chef exact. And once the chef cookbooks are run, they look something like this, similar to Ansible or Puppet. But let's see then. Before moving on to the installation, let me first show you what are the various requirements to get your system ready. So as usual, we are going to use a CentOS 7 VirtualBox. So you can use some of your existing one of your existing boxes, or you can install a new one. And once you do that, you download this package. This package is called a Chef DK. Chef DK is the Chef development kit. It contains everything, all the commands and the libraries required to start Chef, and it is normally deployed in the workstation system, because using it we can write our cookbooks, and we can also deploy the Chef recipes. And it all has all the toolkits like knife and the chef client in order to manage the chef recipes. So how do we begin? First of all, the first step is to download this RPM file running this command. So here what I have this deployed node running CentOS 7, and I have logged into that node from SSH. So let me clear the screen. So what is the IP address of my node? It's 192.168.1.103. So coming back, first of all, create a directory using this command mkdir, and create a directory called, say, chef deploy or something like that. Okay. So I already have created a directory where I'm going to store my chef stuff. So I think it's this one, chef packages. So inside the directory, what I have done, I've created a chef repo where we will be storing our cookbooks and the recipes. And apart from that, I have stored this RPM chef DK, which I was asking you to download. So if you're doing it for the first time, run this command wget http is this RPM name. So once you press enter, I'm not pressing enter, but you have to press enter in order to download it. Then what happens? This package is downloaded. Okay. So coming back again, you have to run this command. So let me show you. You have to run this command get and then the URL to this chef DK package. Then you press enter. Then what happens is you get this thing installed, right? So here you get this thing downloaded and stuff, but I cancelled it because I already have it downloaded. And once you have it downloaded, install it using this command rpm ivh and then the package name. Or you can also install it using this command yum install and then this package name. So anything which works for you. Okay. So I'm just pressing Ctrl C because I want to cancel this command, because I have already installed this. But once you do yourself, you have to press enter and then do the Ctrl C to cancel it. So once you install it, what will happen is you will get the development kit commands ready in your system. To test that out, you can just write knife and see that it gives you certain options. It doesn't show that command not found. That means knife is installed in your system. That means that you have the chef DK available. Okay, what do we see? We know what chef DK is and what it does. Then let's first of all try our hands in writing a first recipe. So as I said, what is a recipe? It is a program that will that is a step-by-step set of instructions that will allow you to install or configure something in a certain server. Now say we want to install HTTPD server, Apache server, and then we want to put a certain index.html file in it. So how will we write the recipe and how does it look like? We create a folder called chef repo. You can name it anything, but we name it chef repo so that it's a repository of various chef recipes and cookbooks. Okay, I'll tell you what the difference between a recipe and cookbooks is. Recipe is a set of instructions to deploy certain thing or configure a certain thing. Now, if you have a lot of recipes and they are going to run together, then that would be called as a cookbook. Okay? So a cookbook is a combination of lots of recipes. Okay, say I want to install MySQL, Apache, as well as deploy certain things on the server, make some configuration changes, restart a lot of services. So I have a set of tasks, right? So in order to run those set of tasks, it is not sufficient if I have just one recipe, because one of the recipes would be to install Apache. The second recipe would be to install MySQL. The third recipe would be to restart the services. Fourth recipe would be to make some changes in the config files. So here I have 4 different kind of recipes. So I have to combine them all and run them in a certain sequence. So that is called the combination of recipes is called a cookbook here. Okay. So first, then going back, let's first learn how to write a single recipe. Then we write multiple recipes, or what we call as a cookbook and chef. So first, we have created a folder, and inside it you can create another folder called recipes. That is where you store your programs which you write as recipes. Now one more thing, here I have written a single recipe for Apache installation and then putting an index.html file over it. So you can see, unlike Ansible, here the files are written in Ruby, so we have an extension Apache installer.rb. So that's a Ruby file. So you create a file with a .rb extension so that people can determine that this is a chef-based deployment. And now let's see how this playbook normally looks like. Let me open it in a better editor so that you can see the syntax in a colored manner. Alright, so here, once I enter this file, you can see there are a few things written. Now, there is a simple syntax for writing code in Ruby. Just forget the rest part of the code and just concentrate on the things which I have here selected. Okay, so what do we see? Service, then a service name, to action, and some actions are written, and so this is the Ruby style of writing. You should start something with either a service or a package or an action or a file or a content. So these are the 5 things you just have to remember. Anything starts with either a package or a service, or it is an action, or it's a file or a content. Then you have this syntax of do something and then do that action and end. Okay, so do and end would always be there, and there should be another package, service, action, file, or content. So this is all you need to know in order to write simple this recipe books. Okay, so first, say we want to install the package called httpd. When we write package and then the package name, we don't have to write yum install or anything. It determines that this is a Linux, CentOS, or Red Hat based system, so it has a library which takes care of that. So you just have to write the name of the package you want to get it installed. Package, and the package name is httpd we want to install. Then once we install, we want the service httpd to have an action, that is, we want it to be enabled, that is systemctl enable httpd, so that it starts at boot, and then we want to start the service. Okay, so we want these 2 actions to be done. So then we do that, and right end. Then finally, we also write file, because we want to put this file in this path, so we can do that. And then we want this content to be pasted inside this file. Welcome to Apache itself. So that's all. So here we do two things. There are two tasks. One is to install Apache, start the service, and then put this file and put the content inside the file. So that's a simple playbook. Now if you want, this is a simple recipe, and if you want some more complex recipes, I'll show you where and how to find them and how to implement them. So this is a simple recipe. Now how do we run this recipe and see that whether it works or not? So you write the recipe and save the file, and here you can see the recipe execution. Okay, so how do we execute the recipe? In order to do that, we have a command that's called chef apply. Chef apply allows you to apply a recipe to that specific server. Like say this is the server where I want to install the recipe. Then I write chef apply and then the name of the recipe file, apache installer.ruby. Then now if I press enter, then it will apply the recipe and make the installation. So let's see what happens. Now see, it's executing the first step of the installer, that is installing the HTTPD package. Once this step is over, then it will keep a index file with the content we wrote. So now you can see that the installation is complete. This version of Apache was installed and service was started and service was enabled, and that finally this file was created and this content was updated. Okay, now if I run it again, since everything has been already done, we'll see it will quickly exit and show that everything is in place. Okay, you can see everything was up to date. So now, in order to verify whether Apache installed correctly or not, or whether the page was placed properly or not, let's go and Apache was started properly, then the page should be displaying index.html. Yes. So here you can see welcome to Apache Chef. So that was the result of the playbook which we ran. It removes the Apache server from here. Yum remove HTTP and then however, so this site cannot be since Apache is gone. I apply this again, the recipe, then it would do the same things again and we'll get our site back. So that is how configuration tools allow us to get our things in order and in an automated fashion, and this is how the chef style of working is. But this is a simple recipe, just one single recipe, but in case of cookbooks, things are a bit different. So let's go back and check. See, it's already up. That is all about how a single recipe works. Okay, let's make things a bit more complex. Let's go and go on and try a cookbook. Okay, or as I said, let's try a cookbook, which is a combination of many recipes. So here's the definition. As I said, if you have many recipes or a set of different steps to be installed, then you use a cookbook. So how to write a cookbook? It also has a certain pattern to write a cookbook, just like in Ansible we had a certain combination of or a pattern to write a cookbook. So here we also have a certain pattern to write a cookbook, but the good news is in case of chef, you can generate the skeleton for writing a cookbook. Skeleton in the sense different files and folders that should be present in order to write a cookbook. So this is the command chef generate generates a cookbook. Say I want to generate a cookbook for this Apache which I wrote the recipe about. So you can go anywhere and create a folder, say called cookbook, and then inside cookbook you can write this command chefs generate cookbook and the name of the cookbook. Then what happens, it creates certain blank files and folders. You can see there is a folder called cookbook, and inside it there is a very good hierarchical structure of various files. You can see there are different files and folders created in this pattern. So that command makes it simple for us to write cookbook. Like it creates the general pattern that is required to write a cookbook. Then we can go to the different files and just make our entries, so that we don't have to generate the entire tree again and again. So this is how this chef cookbook writing is made simple by the chef DK or the development kit. So what was the command which we wrote to generate? Chef generate cookbook, then the name of the cookbook. This can be anything, you can name it anything. So it will generate a project in that name and various files. Now you can go to each and every file and make the changes according to what you need for that cookbook. So what to put in each file and what is the meaning of each file in here, I'll explain you. Before that, let's try a certain project, and then once we get that thing installed, then we can use that template to understand what the I mean each of the what is the syntax. Okay, and similarly, say you want to keep some templates inside the cookbook, then you can also write chef generate template httpd cookbook and index.html. Then what it does, it will create another folder called template and add the index.html file onto it, so that you can later on add entries. Like here, it generated a template for installing Apache. Okay, but we have to of course add our commands and recipes in there. This is just a skeleton. So again, we can write this command. So it will generate. So you can see if we go into this folder and onto the tree command, now we can see there is a new folder called templates which wasn't there earlier. We had test spec, these were the two folders, and recipes. But now we have another folder called templates. Inside it we have a template file for index.html. Okay. So inside it, if we put certain certain texts and then we can then go on and deploy this, and we'll find the content of the entire index.html file. Okay, when we deploy. So that was how to generate a skeleton for a cookbook. That is the structure of a cookbook, and then you write the cookbook. So I'll show you how to write a cookbook. Before that, let's use a cookbook which I have already written for our demonstration, and then we will understand the contents of that cookbook. Okay, so I have a cookbook for installing Nagois, the monitoring tool, and then this cookbook has been uploaded in this location in GitHub, my GitHub account, Cookbook, which installs Nagois. Okay, so let's clone this cookbook onto our server so that we can install it. So copying the path, when you do the same. So now we have write the git clone command and path to the cookbook. So that will bring all the contents of the cookbook into our server. Here we are. Now we have Chef Cookbook Nagois project clone onto here. Let's go in and see what is inside. So here inside this project we see this Nagois 3 folder. This is actually the cookbook project, and there are two files, recipes.json and solo.rb. Now what is there inside Nagois 3? This is actually the cookbook contents, just like the one we generated some time ago for Apache. Since this is Nagois, it has a lot of components, so we have lots of these templates and lots of these installer recipes, different recipes. One recipe is to install the default programs required for Nagois, then one is to install the Nagois agent, Nagois client, and the Nagois server. So everything will be installed in this using this cookbook. Apart from that, I showed you two files which were outside this cookbook, recipes.json and solo.rb. Now what are these files? Since some time ago I showed you like you can run a single recipe using this command. Which command? Chef apply command. When it's a single recipe, you can run it anywhere using a chef apply command. But if it is a cookbook, you cannot run it using a chef apply command because it's a combination of various recipes. It requires some other commands to source the entire thing. Okay. So since we are not using the server client mechanism in chef here, we would be doing the newer mechanism called chef solo. So in order to do that, we will have to create two files. In order to run a chef cookbook using chef solo, we have to create two files. So what are those two files? One is the recipes.json and another is the solo.rb. Now let me tell you three things. Number one, this chef solo command is a part of the chef DK, so you don't have to install it. This command will run out of the box if you have installed chef DK. Number two is here are two files, recipes.json and solo.rb. These enable chef solo to work. Now these files have to be created by you manually. So in order to create the solo.rb file, you just run this command. You don't have to do anything, just run this command, echo cookbook path, present working directory, and push it into this file. Right? So then when you go into that file and see the contents, you can see that it shows cookbook path where we are currently keeping this cookbook, and that's all. So that chef solo understand where the Nagois cookbook is. Okay? So that's the purpose of the solo RB. Then we have to create another file called recipes.json. This file would contain the various names of the recipes that need to be run under this cookbook. Like I said, this cookbook has these three recipes. You can see in the recipes folder there are this Nagois check, Nagois client, Nagois server, and the default. So here we are calling all these four recipes: Nagois client, server, check, and the default. So those four recipes would be installed. This would remind you of the file which we had in Ansible for calling various Ansible roles. So this is similar to that. We have many roles here. One is to install a server, one is to install a client, one is to do a Nagois check, and then one is to install a default. So all these are called by this file. Okay. So recipes.json is just a pointer to various recipes that will be installed, and solo.rb is the pointer to where the cookbook is kept. So once you are ready with these things, you can then deploy your cookbook using chef solo. The deployment command is chef solo -c, and then you write the solo rb, so the file name, and -j, the JSON file name. So once you do that, it will start deploying that cookbook in order to install Nagios in the server. So let's do that once and see what happens. So it has started the chef client and it's pulling up the cookbooks and converging various resources, that is gathering data and starting the installation. So now the package in Nagios is getting installed. We have to wait for some time while it downloads and install it, and then it will configure the entire thing and then do all the agent settings, do the configuration changes. When everything is up, then it will restart the services and let us know. So it will take a while if you're installing it for the first time and if your network is slow. Otherwise, it will normally complete between a couple of minutes, 5 or 10 minutes at the most. Okay, meanwhile, this is getting installed. Let's discuss a few more things. Once this thing will be installed, you can log in to the Nagios server using the server's IP/Nagios. That will give us the dashboard of Nagios, where the monitoring would be taking place for this server, and this would be the credentials to enter the server. So once we are done with the installation and we check the Nagios out, then we will investigate this cookbook and learn how the syntax is written and how this cookbook was written. And then I'll also give you an example of where you can source these kind of cookbooks and modify them for your needs. Okay, so coming back here, we can see the installation is already complete. So let's scroll back up and see what were the steps that happened. So we were here, we ran this command chef solo -c solo.rb -j recipes.json. So it started installing cookbook gems. Gems is a concept in Ruby. So it started different gems, like different modules to install. And then first was installing Nagios, then it changed the configuration file, and then these were the contents of the configuration files. So once these contents were updated, then it set some permissions, and then once the permissions were set for the various other config files of Nagios, then it obviously would have restarted the services and set up the log files and other stuff, and everything's finished. Here we can see the chef client finished and resources were updated. If something is wrong, it would have shown an error with the error message. So now we know that everything ran fine successfully on this server. So we are good to know whether we have this Nagios running or not. So we write /Nagios. So here we are in. Since I have already installed Nagios and tried in this browser, I was not prompted for a password. Maybe I saved the password in the browser. But if you are doing it for the first time, it will prompt you for a password. So I have set this as the username and this as the password, default password in this file. So that is it. Now we are done with the Nagios installation using the chef cookbook. So now let's come to the final stage of our session, and let's understand what this cookbook is all about, and then we're good to go. So these two files you have probably understood. The recipes .json, this file is needed by the chef solo in order to know what are the various recipes that are contained in this cookbook and what needs to be installed. So you don't want to install the server, say you are installing the same cookbook for using it as a client in some system. Say you want to just install the Nagios client, then you can remove this line and remove this line so that you just install the default packages and the client package. So that is how this recipes.json works. Solo.rb. So you can use this project as a template to write your own cookbooks as well. The solo.rb, what does this do? This file just tells Chef Solo the command that, hey, my cookbook is present in this location. So that's the location where you keep your cookbooks. Like I have my cookbook 3 in which location? Inside this folder, pwd. This is the path where I have kept it. So I have to update that path inside solo.rb. That's why we ran this command with the pwd present working directory. So it takes the present working directory, puts it inside this bracket, and gives us this file. Okay, so once this is done, we are done with these files. Then let's enter Nagois folder. This is the main was generated when we started to write the cookbook.
I'm sure you enjoyed learning from this video. Please like the video, and if you have any doubts regarding this video, please comment us in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more such informative videos. Do look out for other related videos in our playlist. For more information, visit our website now. Keep learning with Intellipaat.